Hello everyone, grown man here reviewing a children's movie. So when Bad Guys 1 came out, everyone was pleasantly surprised, including me when I saw it a couple of days ago. Now, even though I had a good time watching the first movie, I was not excited about this one because I knew what was going to happen, and this movie is exactly what I expected it to be. It's not bad, it's not amazing, it's just okay. It's a fine movie that you can watch with your kids. Also, this review will have spoilers for first movie, you have been warned. Now, making a sequel for this movie was always going to be challenging because first movie is pretty self-contained. You have these characters who are thieves, they're bad people, and then they have a change of heart, and throughout the course of movie they end up becoming the good guys. So the character arc and the entire story and everything was pretty much done. And you can feel that in this sequel that they're grasping for straws. They're trying to figure out a way to make this sequel work. And some of it works, some doesn't. This time we have new villain, or more like villains. We have three new villains. They enter the scene, and it's pretty interesting. Like the challenge this time is that they force our now good guys to do some shady stuff again, and that creates the main conflict. Now, for the good stuff, the movie looks amazing. It is well animated. It doesn't feel cheap. You don't get that awful vibes with some of those, like Angry Bird movies or some Illumination garbage Minion sequels. The movie looks fresh and it has some 2D inserts, some really fast paced editing, but nothing obnoxious. And when the movie starts, we do have some interesting stuff like, oh, they are struggling to fit into the society, right? Like they're trying to look for a job and no one wants to hire them because they used to be criminals. So it makes sense. But what didn't make sense is that they are very close friends with the governor of the city, and she doesn't help them at all into having a job. The voice acting, again, very well done. Sam Rockwell, I think it is one of the better castings I have seen in a while as a wolf. He just slips in like a glove in this character, and everyone else is also fine. But I have two characters that I don't like. One is, of course, Aquafina. It's a itsy bitsy tiny spider, and why does it sound like a 50-year-old woman with smoking problem? It just doesn't work at all, and not to mention that she has extremely limited range in how she can deliver the dialogues. And another one is the villain. Now, the villain is not as bad as Aquafina, but she also doesn't leave any strong impressions, especially compared to Marmalade, which again is not like some spectacular villain, but much better, much more interesting character than whatever we get in this movie. And also, like the sidekicks of the villain are more interesting than the first one. At least one of the sidekick, the bird one, is well done, but the main villain herself, I didn't care, to be honest. I don't like villains with this type of boss man personalities, and they just end up being boring or uninteresting, and it's the same situation here. The action is very well done. It is intentional. You have this really solid camera movements. The choreography is nice, and there are a lot of moments where they actually utilize that it is an animated medium. And same with the humor. Jokes for the most part are funny. I mean, there is some of that iPad kids humor which I really don't like, and I feel that it is just not even good for kids. Also, it has a lot of fart jokes which I never like. I didn't like them in first movie, still don't like it. But overall, for the most part, jokes land. They're well placed, well timed, well delivered. I don't have much problem with that. So as I said, overall, it's a decent movie. But the biggest issue of this movie is that it really lives in the shadow of the first one. I feel that producers saw that, oh, this worked in the first movie. Oh, people like this one in group testing, so we have to do it again. And there are plenty of instances where this movie annoyed me. For example, the first movie starts with the chase. This one has to start with a chase. The first movie had an issue where people don't trust the gang. Well, again, we have an issue where people don't trust the gang. The first movie has some heist during a party. Well, again, we have another heist during a party. In the first movie, the wolf is conflicted about something. Well, we have to do that again. In the first movie, Crimson Paw saves the day. Well, let's do it again. Everyone likes villain from the first movie, so let's give him another cameo. Not even cameo, like he eats up quite a bit of important screen time in this movie, and this movie could have done without him. So as I said, overall, this movie is, to a certain extent, like really obsessed with being like the first one, and that stops it from having an identity of its own. And also, the last 20 minutes of this movie do a lot of heavy lifting. I think all the sequences that are in outer space and all the jokes and action that happens there, it is very well done, and as I said, it does a lot to like lift this movie out of its mediocrity. But at the same time, pacing of this movie doesn't help with anything because we have three new characters, right? We have villain from the old movie back as well, so he's eating up screen time. But at the same time, length of this movie is shorter than the first one. So at the end, you never feel that weight. You never feel that all of these characters went through a journey. You don't have enough those thoughtful, important character moments that we saw in the first movie. And I think the biggest victim of this pacing has to be Crimson Paw, because she was one of the better characters in the first movie. She was interesting, she had a massive impact on the plot, a nice character development. But here, even though she is part of the conflict, you don't feel like that she did much. She always feels like she is working in the background during this movie, and then when she finally gets a time to shine, the movie is over. So overall, I feel that this movie could have benefited from being like 10 to 15 minutes longer. So overall, yes, even though this movie is definitely not as good as the first one, it is still pretty decent. And normally I would recommend watching something like this on streaming. But if you have a kid or if you really like the first one and you want to watch it in cinema, it's not a bad choice. You will still have a good time. And most importantly, it doesn't insult your intelligence like one of those Angry Birds or Minion sequels, right? So those are my thoughts. I had an okay time watching this movie, but I hope you had a good time watching this video. Thank you for watching all the way through. I will see you next time. Till then, goodbye, take care, and have some fun with fiction.